What's up, this is Jake with Hike 734, hiking with Kristen to Clouds Rest and its epically long ridge. And then we snuck on over to Sunrise Lakes with a little bonus up over to the Sunrise High Sierra Camp, all in Yosemite National Park. We started out over at the Sunrise Trailhead and then worked our way up and climbed Clouds Rest and then back over to the junction with Sunrise Lakes, and then went over to Sunrise Lakes and then up around the ridge down to the Sunrise High Sierra Camp. And the trailhead starts out over in the trees and goes over to the outlet over by Tenaya Lake and crosses over Tenaya Creek. And if you're early in the season, you'll probably have to take your shoes off like we did. And then from there, it travels through a nice forest. It's a mix of the lodgepole forest, and it's got sprinkled throughout little tiny views of the cool rocks and just some of the formations there. And it gradually starts to gain a little bit of elevation after crossing a couple of creeks, and then it just starts to just get steep. And this section was really cool for us. We got a lot of wildflowers through here. It was really smoky from some of the fires that are going on around the park. But it was just really just cool boulders, and we can look across over at some of the cool ridge lines over there, and I'll sprinkle some later in the afternoon as some of the smoke cleared. I'll sprinkle some of those in there. But for the most part, it was just an affair of getting up through these boulder fields, and then gradually you could definitely tell as the forest changed. You could see that we were getting closer to the saddle and the top of this little ridge line. There we met the trail junction with the Sunrise Lakes, which we'll come back to later on. And from there, the trail started to just traverse for a little tiny bit, and then it started switchbacking down, and you could see over at Sunrise Mountain, which is a really cool long ridge, which definitely looked better in the afternoon. And kind of dropped down into a lush area with some cool meadows. And that was kind of the theme, where it would rise up, which it did over this boulder field. And then from there, once again, really cool look at Sunrise Mountain. And then it dropped down into another lush area with a really cool pond. And admired that with little ducks on the other side, and then continued on and went up over another ridge. And this one was a lot of this open lodgepole and really dry forest there. And then it dropped down one more time, and then we started the long gradual slog on up. And this is actually just kind of a moderate grade, and it's pretty consistent. So you just kind of put your back into it, and you start to get some little views out to the left, kind of heading out to the east, but not a ton of views. And then eventually the trail will level off, and it kind of makes a turn around to the right. And from there, we could go ahead and see Clouds Rest, and we could see people up on top of that. And at this point, it feels like it's a long ways, but it's actually not that far. And so it kind of traverses across the face, and then across this really cool, dry ridge there. And then it starts to climb on up, and you're definitely now on Clouds Rest, working your way up through these trees. And there are a couple places that you can kind of steal off and sneak some of the views that you're going to go ahead and get at the top. But if you just hold on a little bit and stay along the trail, eventually it swaps out to the naked ridge, and there's some really cool rock formations that look like pancakes. And you can really you can follow the foot trail that stays a little bit on the east side, or you can just get right up on that ridge line, which is what we did, and just walk that ridge. It is just amazing. And I followed Kristen up there for a while, and it's just awesome views on both sides, and it's just a really long, cool ridge. And finally, we made it up to the summit, and the smoke was a lot clearer than where it was below, but not a crystal clear day by any stretch of the imagination. But we got a really cool look over at Half Dome and just down there below us in the Tenaya Creek drainage, and then on the other side where the Merced River is working its way down. So yeah, lots of really cool views, looking at just all the domes and the mountains that wraps around it, and yeah, just a super great summit. But from there we turned back around and headed on over to the junction with the Sunrise Lakes Trail and started working, and that just kind of traverses along the ridgeline, and you actually do get to look back over at Clouds Rest, and it just kind of traverses for a little bit, and then it drops on down to the first lake, which is just a really pretty lake. It's got that nice granite dome backdrop, and so yeah, really cool place, and saw some people swimming there and crossed through the outlet of the lake, and from there it climbs up just a little bit, and the trail doesn't actually go to the middle lake. You have to kind of go a little off trail. After you've climbed a little bit, you can kind of say, hey, I think there's going to be a lake over there. So you can do a little bit of easy off trail action and get down to the shores of this one. It's got a couple of islands in it. And then we jump back on the trail, and then you gain about 150 feet or so, and then you come along the shores of the third and highest of the three lakes, and that's just a really, it's definitely longer, and the trail follows it for a while, which is really nice. And that one at the head of that one also has, and just kind of around it, has some really cool granite, just ridges around it. And then from there, we decided that we were going to continue on to the Sunrise High Sierra Camp. So the trail just starts climbing like a dog right after that, and then crosses over a pretty little inlet creek that's seasonal. And from there, it just starts working its way up the trees, and there's some little open meadows there, which are really kind of fun. And then from there, it finally gets up to the saddle, and it's just this really dry, once again, this sandy kind of a ridge, which is sweet. And then on the other side, it is like a different world. It is all rocks and trees. It is just this big open parked out landscape, but there's zero grass. But as you get lower, it starts to get a little bit more grassy, and the trees start to get thicker, and then you turn the corner and you start dropping down into that valley, and you really can't see a whole lot into there until you start to get pretty low, but you definitely can tell that this is more of the lush side of things. And then man, you finally kind of come down, and you can start to see that there's some human structures for the High Sierra Camp, and you get little teasers of the meadow, and there's actually an outhouse over here, which is very nice for the comfort hiker. And then finally you just break out into this amazing meadow. It's backdropped by this really cool dome. It's just a great spot, and you can see Matthes Crest, which is just this incredible serrated ridge that is awesome. And then so anyways, from there we went ahead, we turned up, and now we're starting to walk back, and just so many flowers today, which was really great, and saw some birds, and yeah, just really cool. But the views were great, and the longer we hiked, the more the smoke lifted, so the views got even better. But anyways, all of these places are super pretty, and I would say if you're thinking about doing them, you should do them. I think they're all great. Clouds Rest and the Sunrise Lakes and the Sunrise High Sierra Camp. This is Jake with Hike 734, hiking with Kristen in Yosemite National Park. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and head on over to hike734.com for more goodness.